There are 3 rules I grew up with. Never answer a knock after midnight. Never look through a peephole if the hallway light is off. And if you ever hear knocking from inside your bedroom wall, never knock back. My mother told me those rules when I was very young. At the time, I thought every family had strange rules. Some kids were told not to run with scissors. Some were told not to talk to strangers. I was told not to respond if the walls of our house started knocking. I did not understand how serious she was until years later. We lived in an old gray house at the end of Hollow Creek Road. It stood alone, surrounded by trees that leaned too close to the windows. In summer, the house smelled like damp wood. In winter, it smelled like dust, cold stone, and something buried deep underground. The house had belonged to my grandmother before us. She died there alone in the upstairs bedroom before I was old enough to remember her. My mother never liked talking about her. Whenever I asked, she would say my grandmother was quiet, or tired, or that she had lived too long in that house. That was always the phrase she used. Too long in that house. Even as a child, I knew our home was different. There were locks on bedroom doors, but not just on the inside. Some doors had locks on the outside too. There were thin lines of salt beneath the windows. There were crosses nailed inside closets. And every mirror in the house was covered with a white sheet. My mother said my grandmother had strange habits, but she never removed the sheets. Not once. When I turned 18, my mother got sick. Cancer. It happened quickly. 1 month she was tired. The next she was in and out of hospitals. Soon after that, doctors were speaking quietly in hallways, using words that meant there was no way back. Near the end, she became obsessed with the house. She kept asking if I had heard anything. She asked if I had seen anyone in the hallway. She asked if I had dreamed about my grandmother. One night, while I sat beside her hospital bed, she gripped my wrist and made me promise that after she was gone, I would sell the house. She told me not to sleep there alone. She told me never to uncover the mirrors. And she told me that no matter what I heard, no matter how familiar it sounded, I should never answer it. I promised her. 3 days later she died. And I broke the promise almost immediately. I did not sell the house. I told myself I needed time. Then I told myself the market was bad. Then I told myself I couldn't afford to move. But the truth was simpler than that. The house was all I had left. For 6 months everything was quiet. No knocking. No footsteps upstairs. No whispers in the vents. Just silence. A heavy pressing silence that filled every room. Slowly, foolishly, I started feeling safe. Then one night in October, I came home from work and found the front door open. Not wide open. Just cracked enough for the wind to move it. Creak, pause, creak. I knew I had locked it. I always locked it. Eventually I walked inside. And the house smelled wrong. Not like dust. Not like rain. It smelled like wet dirt. Like rotten leaves. Like something that had been buried and recently dug up. I searched every room. Nothing was missing. Nothing was broken. Then I reached the living room. One of the mirrors had been uncovered. The white sheet lay on the floor beneath it. I had never seen that mirror before. It was tall and oval, with a black wooden frame carved into twisting vines. The glass looked darker than normal glass. It reflected the room, but not exactly. The reflection looked older, dimmer, as if the mirror was showing my house after years of decay. I stepped closer, and in the reflection, I saw someone standing behind me at the top of the stairs. It looked like my mother. Not the way she looked when she died. The way she looked before she got sick. Tired, serious, wearing the blue cardigan she used to wear around the house. I turned around immediately. The stairs were empty. When I looked back at the mirror, the figure was gone. I should have left right then. I covered the mirror again. That night I slept with every light on. At 12:07 in the morning, the knocking started. This time it did not come from the wall. It came from my bedroom door. 3 slow knocks. Tap, tap, tap. I sat up and stared at the doorknob. The knob turned slightly. Not enough to open. Just enough for me to know something was holding it from the other side. Then I heard a voice. It was soft, familiar, almost gentle. It sounded like my mother. But something was wrong with it. The voice had the shape of hers, the rhythm of her speech, the tired softness she had at night. But underneath it, there was something else. Something hollow. Something listening to itself speak. I did not answer. The doorknob turned again. The voice said it was cold. It said it wanted to come in. It said it missed me. I pressed my hands over my mouth and stayed silent. Then, the voice changed. The softness disappeared. What remained was old and dry and angry. It said I had promised. After that, the house went quiet. But I did not sleep. By morning, I had packed 2 bags. I was halfway down the stairs when I saw writing scratched into the wall beside the front door. It had been carved into the wallpaper, deep and uneven, as if someone had used a fingernail. The message said "Do not leave me alone again." I dropped one of the bags. From upstairs, I heard a slow dragging sound. Something heavy moving across the floor. Then the knocking began again. But this time, it did not come from one place. It came from everywhere. From the walls. From the ceiling. From beneath the floorboards. From behind the covered mirrors. The whole house knocked at once. Tap, 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 tap. I ran. I drove to a motel 2 towns away and stayed for 3 nights. Nothing happened there. No sounds. No dreams. No voices. For the first time in months, I slept. On the 4th day, I called a real estate agent. The first one went quiet when I gave the address. The second said the property had issues. The third said she didn't handle homes in that area. The fourth hung up. Finally, an older agent agreed to meet me. His name was Mr. Albright. He arrived in an old brown sedan and stood in the driveway for a long time before stepping out. He looked at the house the way people look at a casket. Inside, he walked from room to room. He did not mention the covered mirrors. He did not ask about the salt beneath the windows. He did not comment on the crosses inside the closets. But when we reached my bedroom, he stopped. The wardrobe had been moved. It was standing in the middle of the room, facing the wall. Behind it, the wallpaper had been torn away. And there, hidden where the wardrobe had stood for years, was a small door. painted the same yellow as the wall. No handle. About the size of a child. Neither of us spoke. Then the little door opened inward by itself. A smell came out. Wet dirt. Rotten wood. Old breath. Behind the door was not a closet. It was not a crawl space. It was a narrow black passage, sloping downward. Mr. Albright stepped back immediately. His face had gone pale. Later that day he called me. He told me his father had once tried to sell the same house. Back in the 1970s, when my grandmother still owned it. His father had found the same door. After that, he disappeared for 2 days. When he came back, he was different. He stopped sleeping. He covered every mirror in his own house. He knocked on walls before entering rooms. He told his family that something lived behind the little door. Something that did not have a voice of its own. Something that learned people by listening to them. According to Mr. Albright, it could imitate the dead. Sometimes, if a person stayed in the house long enough, it could imitate the living too. I asked what it wanted. He said it wanted to be invited. That was when I finally understood the rules. Do not answer. Do not look. Do not knock back. Because all of those things are invitations. The next morning, Mr. Albright was found dead in his car outside his office. They said it was a heart attack. Maybe it was. But that same morning, I received a voicemail from him. The message was only 12 seconds long. At first, static. Then 3 knocks. Tap, tap, tap. After that, my mother's voice. It told me to come home. I deleted the voicemail. An hour later, it came again. Then again. Then again. Every hour. A no number. Static. 3 knocks. My mother's voice telling me to come home. By sunset, I threw my phone into a river. But the calls did not stop. That night, the motel room phone began ringing. I ripped it out of the wall. Then someone knocked on the motel room door. 3 times. Tap, tap, tap. I did not move. The voice outside said it was housekeeping. But it was after 2 in the morning. Then the voice changed. It became my mother again. I climbed out through the bathroom window and drove until sunrise. For 2 weeks I kept moving. I slept in my car. I paid with cash. I avoided mirrors. I avoided silence most of all. But the knocking followed me. I heard it in gas station bathrooms. From the windows of locked buildings. From beneath my car. Once sleeping in a church parking lot, I woke to 3 knocks coming from inside my trunk. Tap, tap, tap. That was when I understood the truth. The house was not just a place. It was something that had noticed me. Something that had listened to me grow up. Something that had learned the rhythm of my breathing. The sound of my footsteps. The names of the people I loved. I had lived inside it for too long. And now, wherever I went, part of it came with me. So I returned to Hollow Creek Road. I came back on Halloween night, carrying a can of gasoline and a box of matches. The house was waiting for me. Every upstairs window glowed with warm yellow light, even though I had turned off the power weeks earlier. The front door opened before I reached the porch. Inside, the air was warm. The house smelled almost sweet. Like dust, old flowers, and something pretending to be home. I walked from room to room, pouring gasoline across the floors, the rugs, the curtains, the stairs. The covered mirrors trembled as I passed them. Behind the sheets, I heard whispering. Some voices begged. Some laughed. Some said my name. I did not answer. At the top of the stairs, my bedroom door was open. The small door in the wall had grown. It was no longer child-sized. It was wide enough for an adult to crawl through. Darkness breathed from the opening. From inside it came my mother's voice again. It welcomed me home. I struck a match. For a moment, the flame shook in my hand. Then something moved inside the passage. First, I saw fingers. Too many of them. Long pale fingers gripping the frame of the little door from the inside. Then a face pushed forward. It was not my mother. It was not my grandmother. It was not human. It looked as if pieces of different faces had been pressed together and stretched over something underneath. One eye like my mother's. Part of a mouth like someone else's. The skin didn't fit. It shifted as the thing moved. When it spoke, it used many voices at once. Voices I knew. Voices I did not. It told me I had kept it company. It told me I belonged to the house. I dropped the match. The fire moved quickly. The thing screamed. The house screamed with it. Windows burst. The covered mirrors shattered beneath their sheets. The walls began to split open. And from inside them came hands. Not ghostly hands. Real hands. White hands. Burning hands. Hands that knocked from the inside, desperate to get out. Tap, 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 tap. I ran down the stairs, but the front door slammed shut before I reached it. I threw my shoulder against it. It did not move. Behind me, the ceiling cracked. The thing crawled through the smoke, burning but not dying. It moved across the walls and ceiling like a spider made of stolen voices. It used my mother's voice one final time. It told me to open the door. And then I did the one thing I had been warned never to do. I knocked back. 3 times. Tap, tap, tap. The front door opened. But it did not open to the porch. It opened into darkness. A deep, endless darkness filled with whispers. From inside that darkness, I heard hundreds of voices. Maybe thousands. Some were crying. Some were praying. Some were laughing. But one voice rose above all the others. My mother's real voice. Not the thing pretending to be her. I don't remember reaching the yard. I don't remember collapsing near the road. I only remember waking to the sound of sirens and seeing the old gray house burning against the night sky. The fire department said it was electrical. The police said grief can make people imagine terrible things. They said old houses make strange sounds. They said fear can turn ordinary shadows into monsters. But none of them could explain what they found after the fire. Behind the wall of my bedroom, where the little door had been, they discovered a stairway going down beneath the house. It should not have existed. It went below the foundation. Below the basement the house was never supposed to have. Below even the sealed well in the backyard. At the bottom, they found a round stone room. The walls were covered in scratches. Names. Dates. prayers, and thousands of tally marks. In the center of the room, there was a wooden chair. On that chair sat an old tape recorder. The tape inside still worked. The officers played it once. Only once. Most of them refused to talk about what they heard. But one of them told me. The tape began with a woman crying. Then a child begging someone not to open a door. Then an old man repeating that he should not have knocked back. Then more voices. So many voices. At the very end of the tapes, after a long silence, there were 3 knocks. Tap, tap, tap. And then, there was my voice. Not a recording I remembered making. Not something I had ever said. My voice whispering it. That I was still inside. After that, I left the state. I changed my name. I cut my hair. I tried to become someone the house did not know. Years passed. I got married. I had a daughter. I bought a small bright home. Wide windows, no attic, no basement, no old mirrors. For a while I believed I had escaped. Then last night, just after midnight, my daughter came into my room holding her stuffed rabbit. She looked pale. I asked what was wrong. She said someone was knocking inside her bedroom wall. I asked how many times. She said 3. I checked her room. I checked the closet. I checked the windows. I checked every corner. There was nothing there. No passage. No little door. No smell of wet dirt. I told myself it was pipes. I told myself it was the house settling. I told myself anything I had to. Then I tucked my daughter back into bed. As I reached her doorway, she said something that made every part of me go cold. She said the grandma in the wall told her not to worry. She said the grandma in the wall missed me. Then from inside the wall behind her bed, I heard 3 soft knocks. Tap, tap, tap. Before I could stop her, my daughter lifted her small hand and knocked back. Tap, tap, tap. The wall answered immediately. Not with knocking. With laughter. Soft at first. Then louder. And louder. Until every wall in the house was laughing with it. That was last night. I am recording this now because I do not know how much time I have left. My wife thinks I am losing my mind. My daughter says the grandma in the wall wants to meet me. And every few minutes, from somewhere inside this house, I hear those same 3 knocks. Tap, tap, tap. This time, I know better than to answer. But my daughter is young. And children are curious. So if you ever move into a house and find the mirrors covered, leave them covered. If someone you love calls your name from the other side of a locked door after midnight, do not answer. And if something knocks from inside your wall, remember this. It is not asking to come in. It is asking if you are willing to let it out.